Hello and welcome to Martial Mentality, a martial arts inspired podcast. I'm Sifu Delmar, and today I have with me two special guests, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
I'm Sifu Shane from Shaolin Kung Fu Studios in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
I'm Laoshi Megan. I'm one of his students, Myrtle Beach as well.
And we're so excited to have them on the podcast today. And we just got done doing a grueling seminar, and we learned a lot. So we're going to just go ahead and hop right in because we have some awesome topics today. Thank you guys for listening to us. Like, share, subscribe on YouTube. All right, let's get to it. So Sifu, let's start with you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and let the viewers know like who you are.
So I guess if we want to start in the beginning, I started taking karate in 1988. I studied for about 4 years in American freestyle karate. After that, I moved on to training with Medieval Times Dinner and Tournament in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, where I was a knight. We did sword fighting, horseback riding, and stunts. For about 13 years, I did that. During that duration, I took about 2 years of Wing Chun Kung Fu with some friends of mine, partially under another Sifu that's in the Myrtle Beach area. And then after I retired out of the show, I decided to really delve into Kung Fu. And it just so happens that my Sifu Fred Christie, owned Shaolin Kung Fu Studios on my street, which I had never even noticed until I retired out of the show at Medieval Times. So as soon as I retired from that, after 13 years of being in the show, I stepped into his school. Now, he immediately humbled me. And that's was probably the most positive quality of the martial arts that I needed because I was very egotistical and arrogant, especially back then. Being in that knight mentality and being in a locker room all the time, it was almost a self-defense mechanism to not let your guard down for anything. So he immediately humbled me, even though he was 63 years old, and really trained me and inspired me to better myself, not just as a martial artist, not as somebody who's just physically fit, but also being a better person and learning how to be a better person for everybody around me. So he taught us not just the punches and kicks, but that we all have the superpower of being I guess you could say we have the superpower of affecting our entire environment, right? And we can either use that power for good or for bad. And he really pushed us to be a positive influence on our environment. So
Shifu Fred was a great man, and I can definitely tell that he has had a tremendous influence on you and, the other students that were training with you at the time. And it just has, flowed down, and he would be very proud of what you're doing at the school. So, you should definitely feel, honored that you are definitely continuing his memory. Now, Laoshi, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I first got into martial arts when I was 12. I had originally gotten into I was interested in it from the time I was little because I grew up on all the superhero movies at the time, mainly The Incredibles. And then, as Kung Fu Panda came out, my brother and I were practicing, you could say, fighting so much in the living room. She's like, okay, you're going to break something. I have to sign you up. This is getting out of hand. So I started with Goju-Ryu Karate.
Okay.
And I did that for, I think it was about 10 years. And then my teacher encouraged me to branch out because I was struggling at the time with learning the softer part of our system because the hard part came very naturally to me. But the softer part is where I really struggled. So he encouraged me, go find a Kung Fu school and find someone who can teach you the softer parts of these advanced forms.
That is really interesting. You don't see a lot of teachers that normally say that.
No, I had mad respect for him for that. And there weren't many in the area either. So I ended up calling Laoshi. And then we talked on the phone for a while, and immediately I had this feeling. I was like, okay, I think this is the perfect solution. It was a very divine thing. So I was like, I immediately connected with him. I was like, I need to learn from this guy. And then he let me come in and destroyed me brutally for a couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah.
And then, I've been training with him for the past 5 years.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. So let me ask you this, because I kind of share the karate and the kung fu background as well. Was it really difficult for you to, I don't want to say transition, but kind of learn the other side of
Yes.
the martial arts?
Absolutely. I mean, even in my sparring, like it was a 2-year glitch I had in my brain because I was fighting between sticking with what I knew and trying to implement all of the new kung fu philosophies, which were different. Similar, of course, but they were just different enough because I was used to that in close sticky style.
Mm-hmm.
And then going to the long range, I was like, this is completely different. So
Mm-hmm.
it was it still is a difficult transition sometimes.
She acclimated very well, to be honest with you. She does great.
That's good.
She's a terror in the sparring matches.
That's
She does-
good.
she
Yeah,
does
I
awesome.
remember. So one of my fondest memories of Laoshi is when we were doing a seminar at your school, and we had to do some light sparring. And man, she hit a low roundhouse kick, and that foot came right to my face. And I mean, I literally
Oh, she did the
kissed.
double pop.
I kissed her foot. It was like boop boop, and I was like, oh, like I literally made that face.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, all right.
Hands up.
Respect, yes, hands up.
I was a little scared after that. I was like, I just hit Sifu in the face.
No, listen, no. It was thank you for the reminder,
Yeah.
because I definitely made sure from the rest of the time, hands up, hands up, hands up.
Sparring is lessons.
Yes, they should be. They always should be. And so, I mean, and once again, like, I want to thank you guys one more time on camera. So you guys did an amazing job teaching our students today. And I think everybody learned a lot. I learned a lot.
Oh, thank you.
And, that's just a testament to your training as martial artists. So thank you once again, Laoshi. Thank you again, Sifu.
Thank you.
We are just so thankful again. So let's continue. So you kind of talked about it a little bit, and so let's kind of freestyle a little bit. So you said that superhero movies got you interested in martial arts.
Yep.
So what about you? What got you interested in martial arts?
Oh, it's a long history there.
Oh, we got time.
All right,
Let's
so-
go.
I mean, anybody who grew up in the 80s and 90s watched all those action films, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we all were obsessed with the Jean-Claude Van Damme's and the Chuck Norris movies and even Steven Seagal
I was
back
just
in the
about to say,
day.
don't forget Steven.
Despite his bad reputation, I mean, he had some really good joint locks and throws and stuff. They looked good on camera. It looked really good. I loved it. And I ate that stuff up. And then, just like what brought us together at the tournament, probably 15, 16 years ago, Power Rangers.
Oh, yes.
And all of that stuff. Anime, Fist of the North Star from back in the 80s when I was watching that. And then, right down to Goku and Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z and all the great animes and shows we have nowadays. I think more currently, at least within the past 10 years, I love the Shaw Brother movies. Love them. I think they're excellent movies. I think they show the application very well of the movements that we're supposed to be doing, albeit in a little bit of a cheesy fashion, but it's for film, it's for cinema, especially for the cinema of the time. I think it was really groundbreaking stuff, and I was always sucked into it as a kid. Anytime it was on TV, I was sitting watching it. I couldn't help it. It was great stuff. So, all of that just accumulated and drove me to just want to throw punches and kicks and have fun.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And Laoshi, you said The Incredibles. Was there anything else or any other inspirations for you to start martial arts?
That was really the main one. That was the only superhero movie I was allowed to watch. So that was my big
Okay.
moment. Yeah.
All right. Well, who's your favorite Incredible?
Probably Frozone.
Really?
He's not really an incredible, but I count him.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a little unusual, but
I do
Okay.
love it when he asks for his super suit.
Yes.
That's,
Yeah. Honey, I need my super suit.
that's how I feel when I'm trying to get ready.
yes. I just
Does your
love how
wife talk to
laid
you
back
like
he is.
that?
Oh yeah, she
Really?
definitely does. Yeah, yeah. There's nobody trumps the Simu.
That's true. That is true.
She's
do,
the boss.
Do your husband like that? Do you like have to make sure you guide him and make sure that he's all set and everything like that?
No, he's pretty good on his own.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay.
He's pretty martially inclined himself, so
hmm
Well, like we both of you have talked about, I got into martial arts because of the Power Rangers and the anime and all the action movies. I mean, the 80s and 90s just were a martial arts craze.
It was.
And it was just, I don't know. I don't think children and people understand how it was then, because when you went to go watch a movie, it was just different. Or when you watched TV, it was different. You know, it's not the same today. I mean, there's good stuff out there, obviously, but I don't know. It was just something different about going to the movie theater to watch the Ninja Turtles or to
Mhm.
watch, the Power Rangers on. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know if it was just the fact that we had never seen that before or, the martial arts were still kind of so new to Americans in that respect, even though it was the 80s and 90s, I mean, we live in the South. We don't normally get.
Still about 20 or 30 years into it, which is
Yes.
relatively early,
Yes.
I mean, everybody knew who Chuck Norris was, and obviously Bruce Lee made everything very mainstream for
Mhm.
everybody, and I think we all need to be thankful for him bringing that to the, big screen like he did. But, there's so many different inspirations out there. It's hard to pick one.
It
Like
is.
you said Ninja Turtles. I was like, I remember when that movie came out in 1989. I remember
Yes.
exactly where I was.
Yes.
That is fond memories, and it definitely inspired me.
I think my fondest memory of that movie is when Raphael cussed. Like, I was like maybe 5 or 6.
After Casey Jones gets away, I know exactly
Yes.
what you're talking
I
about.
love that scene, and
Yeah.
it still sticks in my head. And I don't know. I guess, maybe it's the nostalgia factor because I'm old now. But, I just enjoy that time of my life. And I really do feel like that propelled our generation of people to do martial arts. So, I'm thankful for the movies and stuff like that. So, but anyway, we could talk about that all day. So you said you trained in Goju-Ryu. So let me ask you this. What are some similarities that you feel your Goju-Ryu and your Shaolin have?
I would say, honestly, it's a lot of the Tai Chi backing that's in our
Mm.
style that's in a lot of the Goju forms.
Hmm.
Like, I didn't notice it really until, like, we got deeper into Tai Chi, and I was like, all of this looks familiar. All of our, like, higher advanced forms, there's a
Yes,
lot of Tai Chi in them.
lots. Yes.
And, of course, the principles of, Kung Fu versus karate, they're very similar. So the principles are the same. Oh, you can only throw a front kick so many ways. You can only
Correct.
throw a roundhouse kick so many ways.
Mhm.
So they're similar in a lot of regards.
Do
But
you miss wearing the gi?
I do. I still wear it, actually.
Do you? Okay.
I still
Okay.
trade in my gi.
Okay. Okay.
That's why I always have a hoodie on. It's the weight. Like, I need the.
I think, obviously, Kung Fu, we have all these different uniforms that we wear, but there is just something about the snap of a gi.
It is unique.
It is.
And it's
It
beautiful.
is. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. I like to use it as a way to give me feedback. Like,
Yes.
how
It's
am
like,
I
was
moving?
my punch snapping?
Yeah.
Yes. How am I moving? So, what about you, sir? Can you tell me, so you've trained in a lot of different things. I didn't know you actually trained in American freestyle karate
Mhm.
and Wing Chun.
Yeah.
So, how now that you're primarily focused on Shaolin, have those other systems, what similarities, differences?
I think the American freestyle karate probably influenced a lot of my kicking style. The low high kick,
Mm-hmm.
definitely right there. I mean, it's straight out of a Chuck Norris movie. Which the American freestyle karate system that I took was basically Tong Sudo kicks with American boxing hands.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So that's the same style that Chuck Norris used to use,
Mhm.
basically, and that was a big inspiration for us, and I could tell that it was also a big inspiration for my teacher, Sensei Malcolm Ford, back in the day. I mean, we're talking what 35 years ago,
Mhm.
almost 40 years ago now, but yeah. So I can see us. I use a lot of that still to this day, and even some of the exercises that we perform at the school, I got from that, that I continued to practice over the years. The Wing Chun, uh, as far as that goes, I use that a lot for the concepts of our advanced forms. It's a little bit chopped up as far as what we learned in the Wing Chun class, because my Wing Chun class wasn't just that. I guess I should have added this as well. It was also a Pikiti Tersha class, which is a scream stick and knife fighting style. So my Sifu liked to bounce back and forth between the two, but it was basically just a self-defense class with a Wing Chun dummy, and that was it. So we learned our Wing Chun dummy form. We learned our open hand form. And yeah, so as far as that goes, I see the similarities. Again, just like you were saying, in more of our advanced forms, our dragon stance or San Chi stance, as you call it, right, was the exact same as our Wing Chun stance was. Some of the movements are a little bit different, and I can see the application of both. And I probably use the application of both. It's just kind of ingrained in there at this
Mhm.
point. I do keep the forms separated, and I don't really bring a lot of Wing Chun aspects to our system because there's already so much information just in the Lohan system that I'm teaching.
Right. And before we go on commercial break, and I'm kind of interested, and we're kind of going down this track, but I kind of want to ask you guys, and we can kind of freestyle this conversation. What do you think we should say about the benefits and maybe some of the disadvantages of cross training different systems? Because we've all done it.
Mhm.
So, and it's all influenced us for where we are. I mean, do you feel like more people should do that, or is there a way to do it? What's your thoughts on that?
I feel like once you have a solid foundation in one system, it's very beneficial to bring in some other ones.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But if you try to jump into multiple systems too early, it's very confusing. Just
It
not just for
dilutes
your
it.
brain, but your body.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, for me, I started doing the Ishinru first, and then like a few months later, I started doing some Shaolin, and like it took me a long time to be able to like differentiate, but then see the similarities between the two. And it took me a lot of time and energy to make sure that I was doing each particular style the way my particular teacher wanted me to do it. Because it's easy for things to blend and start to blur and things of that nature. And so I had to really work hard at that. And I don't know how some of the MMA fighters do it. They do a little jujitsu, then they're doing boxing, and they're doing I'm like, man, that is a lot. How do you keep all that stuff in your head?
Yeah. I agree.
And I
Yeah.
think you made a good point. Like it's hard to have enough time to
Yeah.
practice that many
Right.
styles at
Right.
one time.
Right. To be good at it, to
Yeah.
be efficient at it,
Mhm.
And so it's funny because when I watch, MMA fighters, of course they're using high level skill and technique.
Sure.
But then a lot of times, like I still see that, oh well, they're still using more simpler concepts. They're not going too far,
Right.
down the rabbit hole because there's just, like you said, there's just not enough time.
No. And also, yeah, what I think is another aspect of that influences it tremendously as far as the MMA guys go is uh, there's it's rule based.
Mhm.
Whereas if you're just learning Shaolin or just learning karate or just learning one system, uh, the rules aren't there. You can't gouge to the eyes. Well, yes, I can. If I'm defending myself, it's all free game.
That's right.
Like I said earlier, all life is sacred, especially mine.
That's right.
I'm walking home that night if I have to. You know what I mean? So, whereas you can't do that in MMA, so they don't train for those techniques. So you lose a lot of these techniques that are meant to maim people and that would be unethical to use in a ring, and they shouldn't be using those. I mean, we all watched, the old school fights with, Don Fry and the original Gracie fights with Ken Shamrock, where anything goes. You could do groin shots and all of that, and it was this martial art versus this martial, and I loved it. It was great. I think it was very dangerous, and it probably messed up a lot of people permanently.
Mhm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And there's already enough risk getting hit in the head that many times.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that it's wise and very smart of them to set those rules in place because they need to be there for the protection of the athlete. But at the same time, that also makes it to where they can focus on just limited techniques as far as that goes. And I don't think that makes them less of a martial artist by any means. I mean, they get in the ring, they pound it out. They are warriors,
Mhm.
But the techniques are not as broad because they don't need them. They they've chopped it down and made what is efficient for their fighting style. You know?
And if you look at, our schools, because I had a gentleman ask me, we have a Kali school that trains here as well. And, they've seen us spar and they say, well, I see you do your forms and things like that, but then when you spar, you look a little different. And I thought about it and then I realized, well, that's because of rule set
Mhm.
safety. We wear gloves.
Mhm.
There's certain things like you just said. oh, well, in self-defense, I can gouge to the eyes, or self-protection, I can gouge to the eyes. Well, I'm not going to do that to my classmate or my student.
No.
So now that becomes a punch, or that becomes something else that I have to use where we can safely practice, but we don't maim each other. We don't
Right.
kill each other.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes I think people don't see that aspect of the training because they think, oh, well, you do this. Well, you got to look like this.
Yes.
And that's not always the case. You know, we're taught to be adaptable.
Yes. And that brings in the rules of conduct during sparring as well. You're not sparring your enemy.
Right.
And I think that gets lost on a lot of people. They look at it as a challenge to fight, and
Right.
it's not what sparring's about.
Right.
Sparring is supposed to be a learning experience between both partners. And your
Correct.
partners, not punching bags for each other. And even I came up in multiple systems that I came up in where we just duked it out. And if somebody hit you hard, you hit them back hard.
Mhm.
And if you break something, you break something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And we've gone down that road. And A, that's how you lose your students. And B, what kind of defense are you doing? You're not practicing your own self-preservation
Exactly.
by going up against somebody you know A is going to kick your butt
Right.
and trying to hurt them. It's not the school mentality. It's not the Shaolin way. It shouldn't be really any traditional martial arts way. And
Right.
even in MMA, I think you shouldn't be hitting like that because there's only, again, so many times that you can get hit in the head. I love that George St. Pierre actually brings that up, that sparring should be playful.
Yes.
You should be
exactly.
experimenting and testing. It's a
Exactly.
workshop
Exactly.
environment, not somewhere where you're trying to beat the crap out of each other, you know? So I've been trying to reinforce that in our school a lot more lately.
It's interesting that, you know, both of you are talking about this because that is something that has come up, particularly with my kids and my teenagers.
Mhm.
They're very competitive people.
Yes.
And I love that about them. I think it's great. However, what I'm trying to get them to understand is that, like you just said, this should be playful. It's like a game.
Yeah.
You're not trying to knock your person out. You know, they're not your enemy. We're experimenting. Try something different. How are you going to get better at something if you don't experiment? You don't try something.
Mhm.
And you might hit, you might fail, but it's okay. Guess what? Because you're not trying to win right now.
Mhm.
You're trying to train. You're trying to work a technique. You're trying to work a concept.
Exactly.
But, you know, we know how kids and teenagers can be because we were like this.
Even adults, honestly.
Even adults,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Competitive. We want to win.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you get in that winning mentality, what are you going to do? You're just going to stick to what you've always done because
Yes.
this works. So I'm going to do it because that gets me what I want, but you don't grow from there.
It comes down to the everlasting problem of ego.
And that's where we're going to stop right there because we're going to take a commercial break because we're going to talk about that right after these messages. Got to pay the bills, people.
Hey, Sifu Shane here with Shaolin Kung Fu Studios in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'd like to invite everybody to come out and try a free class with us anytime. You can contact me, 843-267-4113 for any information. If you'd like to come and try a class out, I'd be happy to have you. We have Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, and Shaolin Kung Fu. Really good at, we try to keep a nice physical but positive atmosphere, and it's a great time. But just come and try a free class and see what you think.
And we're back. So before we left for commercial break, we were talking about ego and the martial arts. So guys, let's continue down that rabbit hole. And I'm gonna start with you, Laoshi.
Sure.
So have you had experiences where you've maybe had people that you've trained with, or maybe even instructors where that ego or maybe, you know, not so good martial ethics have been showcased within, you know, your training environment or your school?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's going to happen anywhere there are people
Mm-hmm.
because we're always in a battle with our own ego. It never goes away.
Yes, that is so true. Man, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, I know, but
Man, you're
it's
gonna make
true.
me go home and meditate now. Gosh, sheesh.
Me too.
What about you, Sifu?
Oh, that's my number one enemy is my ego. That's what I fight on a minute-to-minute basis most of the time. I call it oozing out, and I hate it. I really try to fight it, and it's unfortunate because it's just kind of how I was brought up. both, in my environment and in the again, the locker room environment that I was in, and then even some of the martial arts that I've taken. It's very cringy, as the kids say. Yeah, I'm not sure if they use that term or not anymore. Probably not even using it right now.
Man,
joking,
don't crash out, as they say. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to crash out.
What do they say? Bet.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Brah.
Yeah. Do they still say gas?
I have no
I don't
idea.
know.
Yeah,
I don't
gas.
know.
I always have
don't
to
know.
ask the younger
I
students.
start
don't
zoning
know.
out after they start using
Oh,
it.
okay. Yeah. I just found out what crash out meant, so I've been using that in my vernacular.
Is that sleep?
That means like going crazy, like oh man, I'm like flipping out. You know what I mean? Like we used to say flip out,
Yeah.
they say crash out.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so that bro crashed out. So that's
Solid information.
hey, listen, I try to stay hip.
Good.
I try to be,
That's how you know you're old, because you just said you were hip.
hip, right? Exactly.
It's modern slang with Sifu Delmar.
That's it. Start adding that on the podcast, like
One new word a week.
crash out.
Definition.
Yes.
Well, definitely ego is something that obviously every human on the planet
Sure.
deals with this.
Mhm.
Okay. In the martial arts, I think it is a disease that is spreading more so now than ever.
Yeah.
And when I say this, I mean no disrespect to any sport martial arts, but the sport martial arts now have kind of gone away from teaching people respect for each other,
Yes.
teaching people to, yeah, we can compete, but at the end of the day, like you said, you're not my enemy.
Yes.
I'm not trying to kill you. I may try to knock you out or make you tap or something like that, but I'm not trying to end your
Destroy
life.
you.
Yeah, destroy you.
Yeah.
And nowadays it is so sickening to go online and you see people just maybe showcasing something that they do, a form or a technique, and you see all these internet trolls.
Mhm.
Oh, that looks stupid. You don't know what you're doing. Da 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 da. And I'm like, what happened to the respect?
Yes.
Why is everybody's ego so big that you're the only person on the planet that understands how to do a straight punch, or you're the only person on the planet that knows how to do a roundhouse kick, or that form is completely wrong. Your foot's in the wrong place, and it's just like, give the people credit. They're training.
Yes.
Half the people on the planet don't train.
Mm.
And so they don't understand some of the challenges that we face trying to be high-level martial artists,
Mhm.
particularly teachers.
Yes.
And so it just annoys me because, especially now that we're more so, in this internet age, and obviously we're on YouTube and things like that, you have people that feel like, well, I'm behind the screen, so I can just criticize and say whatever I want, and there's no consequences.
Right.
And, I know for you guys especially, and I know for me, we try to make sure that we don't teach our students to be, excuse my French, assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, Wu Day is something that is being lost. For those of you who don't know what Wu Day is, that means martial ethics. And so let's kind of talk about that. So Laoshi, what are some martial ethics that you feel that students need nowadays, or just in general, to be good martial artists?
I think one of the biggest ones, just having respect for your teacher
Mhm.
and your training space,
Yes.
which means, helping keep it clean or helping provide for your teacher, helping him out, making sure you show proper respect to everyone who's helping you in class, but whether they're ahead of you or behind you,
Mhm.
it kind of flip-flops. I would say those are probably the two biggest things, like respect for your fellow students, for your teacher, and for your training space.
What about you, Sifu?
Yeah, actually, I'm going to have to agree with that. And again, everybody thinking that it's a competition and not what it's really about, which is self-growth,
Mm.
self-growth, self-protection.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're in there for,
Mhm.
right? It's not me versus him. It's me versus me yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
me versus me tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to be versus me,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody else in the room,
Mhm.
right? And it locks you down and holds you back as a martial artist. And I think, because you're so worried about everybody else, and what everybody else is doing, and whether or not you're going to be able to get them, that you lose sight of what this is all about.
Right.
Self-protection.
That's why I think something important that you always remind us, and you taught me that lesson, was not to ego train.
Yeah.
Because that's another,
Oh, yeah.
it's another Wu Day. I
Well,
would, say.
You're kind of an exception on that, especially because she will overtrain because, I can take it.
I like to compete with myself,
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
but excessively.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's basically the same as ego lifting. You know what I mean? Training until, and I guess we could kind of get into that too. Training until you're destroying yourself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then what are you training for? Because now you're limping down the sidewalk. Who are you going to defend yourself against?
Mhm. Mhm.
You get average Joe down the street. If you're limping down the street and you can't walk, you definitely can't throw a kick,
Mhm.
and you're not going to have any power behind your punches.
Mhm.
What's the point of your self-defense if you can't defend yourself?
The longevity piece
Mm.
has been lost to a lot of martial arts nowadays because now it's just like, oh, you're hurt. Oh, if you can still train, you need to be training.
Yes.
Well, no, I'm hurt,
Yeah.
or I'm sick, or something's wrong with me. Maybe I need to take a break.
Mhm.
Where's the balance anymore?
Yes.
It's been lost. And so, I get it. Push, 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 push. But you also need to understand when it's like, I'm not able to do what I need to do right now.
Yes.
So for like you, Laoshi, you have to maybe take your training down a little bit because
It's been a humbling lesson.
for those of you who don't know, she is going to have a baby. And we're
Very
so
soon.
excited. Yes.
And we have to tell her to chill out all the time.
Yes.
All the time.
So,
Yes.
but I mean, during this time frame, what changes have you made to your training schedule? Like, what do you do?
It's been very difficult because, for the first couple months, I was so sick. I really couldn't do much of anything.
Mm.
So I was basically stuck doing what I could in class, and then I'd just have to go home and sleep for a long time.
Yes.
But then, I would always panic that I'd be forgetting my forms. So
Mm.
then I'd be like, okay, well, I have to at least do what I can. So my Black Sash test was probably one of the hardest tests I've done, even though we had to step back in certain ways.
Yep.
Because I had to hold myself back and
Mhm.
not go crazy.
Mhm.
And
Which
I was
isn't done
basically-
technically yet.
Exactly. That's
Mm.
part,
Oh,
that
wow.
was part
We still
one.
got part
So
2.
you got
Yeah.
part 2.
Well, we
couldn't
couldn't spar, so we had to
Understand.
back the test up a couple hours or a few hours, and then we're going to train the crap out of her,
Yep. Get back in shape.
and then we're gonna do the sparring.
Okay.
Yeah, so we still have to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, but you can't skip parts of your test, but you can be on probation for a bit,
There you go.
especially for this wonderful reason.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And so for you, on the other end, you've had a son, you're married, what have you done in order to, for your training schedule? You have a school, you have a job. I mean, you have a lot of stuff going on.
mhm.
I mean, what do you do? How do you handle that?
It's a juggling act that I feel like I'm never winning. I mean, to be honest with you, I manage a business. Like you said, I have my wife, my son, and then I have the school. I have a lot of help from my wonderful students. They step in anytime I'm like, hey, I really need to stay at home, and I have to help out my wife today
Mm-hmm.
because she also works a full-time job. She's a teacher. She's the head of her department at school. She teaches IB, CP, and AB or AP. She teaches high-level classes, and she puts a lot of time in there. So she needs me at home sometimes too.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I can't be at home. But those times where I can be at home, where some of my students can step in and help me out, being able to delegate that to people that I trust is the key to, the happy wife, happy life.
Mhm.
Because again, Simu is the real boss.
Yes.
Whether we want to
Yes,
admit
she
it or
is.
not.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Yes, she is. Love you, Tam.
Yeah. Uh,
For those of you who don't know, Tam is my wife,
Yeah.
so I just want to say you're the best. But no, I mean, I agree with that. It has taken me a long time to develop, and I still struggle with it. So, I'm admitting this, I'm ripping off the shirt. I am still struggling with, having a balance of home and school.
mhm.
And for a long time, especially early on in my relationship, that was a real sticking point because I would be here sometimes more than I would be there. And I have responsibilities to my home first. That is, if you want to be preachy, those of you who are religious, that's your first ministry. Hey,
Mhm.
you're married, you have a wife, you have a family. You need to be making sure that your family is good. And
Right.
sometimes I was off kilter with that.
Mhm.
And I was putting so many hours here that I was neglecting there, and that was bad. And so now I've done a better job of being able to balance my life in order to make sure that my home is good.
Mhm.
and that my school is good. But like you said, like you guys, both of you said, it is an ever, it's a juggling act. And again, it goes like this all the time.
Yes, yes. And sometimes there's things where you just have to say, no, I'm sorry.
Right.
I can't. Like, I don't ever go out because I can't.
Right.
And it's not that I, don't want to, or I don't enjoy spending time out or, doing things with people. I have very little time to divvy out.
Right.
My Sifu used to say, in life, you should really only dedicate yourself to 3 things. Whatever those 3 things are, don't splay your energy too much. So my 3 things are my home life, my school, and my work. That's pretty much all I have time for. Anything else, I notice my stress level shoots up, and then I'm not the teacher that I should be. I'm not the parent I should be, and I'm not the husband I should be. So it's a juggling act, and just like juggling, you throw one ball up and you're not worried about that. Well, guess what? You got 2 more that are on its way down. And you're going to have to throw those up or they're going to fall.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you're going to be picking them all up.
That's true.
And that's just the way it is. But at the same time, it's an enjoyable life. I love doing everything that we do. I love both of my jobs, both managing our attraction business that we have in downtown Ocean Boulevard and the martial arts school, and all of my students. They are my family, and then obviously my family is also my passion. So, you have to balance it as best you can. And sometimes you're not going to be good at all of it. And you have to be okay with that. Sometimes you have to be compassionate to yourself about that stuff. Sometimes you got to skip that training, even though we want to go hit the gym.
That's right. Yes.
For hours on end. I'll train for 3 or 4 hours at a time. I love it. I will lose myself in training in a split second. You know what I mean? But you have to learn to balance it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And especially, so how are you, I mean, it's so exciting that you're about to have a baby, but that's going to be a big responsibility for you. And you just recently got married.
Yep.
So now your life has changed a lot. How do you think you're going to handle being able to juggle all those new responsibilities with your martial arts training?
A lot of help.
Yes.
Like for me, getting back to martial arts is like my personal priority for my own sanity. But I have so many siblings in town. I have like Sifu and his wife have been very gracious to already offer watching the baby while I do class for a minute. Like
Uncle Sifu.
Uncle Sifu's ready to go.
You need a shirt that says that, Uncle
We've had-
Sifu.
yeah.
You need a shirt
That'd
that
be
says that.
awesome.
We've had
Yes.
people fighting over who's going to help out. So, I can still stay active and
Yes.
train. And
That's really good. You have a good community.
I really do. I've been very blessed in that regard.
That's excellent.
It takes a village.
It does.
And
It
they're all
does.
martial arts obsessed. So that's the other nice part.
Oh, so the baby's
So the
definitely going to be
baby's gonna
training.
be training.
Okay.
Her husband, really great guy. Her husband, who's actually works at Medieval Times as well as
Oh.
the king and MC.
That is cool. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So they actually met through a friend of mine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
Who I trained at Medieval Times as well.
Okay.
So, anyway, and then I brought him into the seminars. You actually probably met him. His name is Casey. But anyway, really great guy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Very scary, but really nice.
Yes.
He's
Yes.
not that. Well, I don't think he's scary. Maybe other people do. But anyway, he's just Casey to me. But anyway, so he's already sending me like cute little videos of little girls like doing martial arts and stuff. I'm like, that's going to be your baby
Aw.
very, very soon.
We have so many
Oh,
weapons
yeah.
in the house. He'll be teaching her how to use a sword in no time.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
so I guess it's being kept in the family. 'Cause
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Well, Uncle Sifu,
Mhm.
you may got to make sure that when she comes, when she's ready to be training, which I'm sure that'll be earlier than not,
Yeah.
you got to make sure she's ready
I'll
to
go
go.
crazy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm excited to meet her.
Yeah,
I
I'm
can't
excited
wait.
for her to meet another Uncle Sifu.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you.
I love that.
Uncle
Awesome.
Sifu. I
Awesome.
like it. Thank you so much. So, guys, do you have anything else that you'd like to maybe say to our listeners out in YouTube, or any other comments or concerns that you may
Actually,
have?
I'd love to touch a little bit more on the training smart
Okay.
over training, right?
Mm.
So we talk about this a lot in our school, and I stress to my students, even though they don't always listen, I stress to my students about, let me know what's going on.
Hmm.
If you're hurt, don't just try to hide it from me and then get more hurt. I'd rather you pull back a little bit today and come back in tomorrow and be able to train still instead of hurting yourself and being out for months.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point in that? Again, you're not going to be able to defend yourself on the street like that. You're not even a martial artist at that point. You're just broken. Why?
Well, it goes back to that ego you talked about.
The ego, exactly. That's it. And honestly, that's something that I have to fight with myself daily with, because I mean, I'm 45. I'm getting older. I have put my body through the ringer. I mean, I was told to retire out of medieval times 15 years ago because I have no disc between C3 and C4, C5 and C6, and 3 herniations around C7.
Wow.
And that's just my cervical spine. I've got separated AC joints. I've had multiple surgeries, multiple fingers put back together from getting smashed and broken, titanium in my hands, and it takes a toll on your body. And I did not train smart. And that was something that Sifu Fred really stressed to me, because I already knew how to train hard and stupid, but I didn't know how to train hard and be smart about it. So being smart about it was, and still is, something that I struggle with, and I have to remind myself. And I am not always successful. I recently just re-injured my shoulder, which was just starting to feel better. And then I'll get back into sparring, and then I'll try to throw a kick that I shouldn't be throwing, and then my torn hamstring starts acting up again, and then what am I doing?
Right.
Just tearing myself up.
I think there's a mentality that has grown in the martial arts recently that if you're not training hard and destroying yourself, you're not training at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous.
Yes.
Why would I want to train something that is going to destroy me and cripple me, in the future? That's not smart.
Yeah.
I mean, we look at other sports. Look at football players. The CTE has become such a thing. Now you're seeing people that say, you know what? I don't care if I'm a millionaire. It's not worth my brain.
No.
I will retire early if I can have my, my way of life when I'm older. And so as martial artists, we should be the same way.
Absolutely.
And we should be teaching our students, like you just said, I mean, you made a great point of training smart. Don't destroy yourself. I mean, you should be able to do this when you're 60, 80 years old. I mean, you talked about Sifu Fred at 63.
Yes.
Doing this. And that's phenomenal. How many 63-year-olds?
He was still doing it at 70. It was just when he hit 70, when Parkinson's had taken over. That's when he had to. I remember the day. I think it was about 68. Anyway, he was teaching us a purple sash form. We had just gotten our purple sashes and just became Sihings officially. And me and Laoshi Ian, another really, really great guy, or Sisuk Ian, really, because, but really great guy. They were teaching us, or Sifu Fred was teaching us how to do what we call eagle kicks. And I remember that last kick he did, he hurt his back, and that was it. And he wasn't able to train after that, but he had slipped up. I think he knew that he shouldn't have done that kick, but he still wanted to get in there, and he said it. He was like, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just told you, and I didn't. I mean, he was almost in his 70s and still jumping around and still doing all the stuff, obviously not doing it like a 20-year-old, because that would be, ridiculous, right, for anybody. But doing what he was doing, I mean, he was working me to death.
Oh yeah.
And it was like it was nothing to him, in his early 60s, and he was twice my age. So, he really did try to push that point on us that you need to be able to come back and train tomorrow. You need to. Otherwise, you're just going to be broken, and then you're going to be out, and then you might not come back. Because that's what happens, right? I'm sure you've seen it dozens of times.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
I've seen it dozens of times. Somebody gets just a little tear or something, and then that's the last you see of them.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll be back next week. And then you see them out in public, and it's the classic.
Where you been at?
I've been thinking about you. Yeah. I'm going to be back in next week. Yeah.
I'm coming back. I still got this. My sacroiliac is hurting,
Yep.
My hamstring is bothering me. Yeah, I hear it all. Trust me.
For sure. And I can understand why they're holding off, but there's always an accommodation, and I know a lot of people don't like that. I'm gonna say this, but we can accommodate for any fitness level and any ability level. Are they going to get black belt, black sash? No,
No.
it's not for everybody. It's not meant for everybody, right? It's a very, very select few people that hit that black belt. Sometimes it is circumstantial. Sometimes it's just not in the cards. You can come in and you can train as much as you can, and you can be smart about it, and you can learn to defend yourself.
That's right.
And you can be good at defending yourself.
That's right.
You don't have to get into an MMA ring to be able to throw punches and kicks.
That's right.
Or to defend yourself, or to even have the self-awareness to defend yourself. And if that isn't working for you, then find some other way to work out. That's why we practice the qigong that we do, the stretching that we do. It's for longevity, not for, destroying our bodies as quickly as we can. But man, I was really good last year. What good is that doing you now?
Exactly. Yeah. What advice do you have for, the individuals out in YouTube land about overtraining and, things of that nature, like Sifu was talking about?
To not overtrain if you can avoid it, obviously, but find a good teacher, find a mentor.
That's
That's
Find
great
someone
advice.
who's
I
going to push
agree.
you, but will
Good
also know
advice.
when to pull you back.
Yes.
I
'Cause
agree.
that's where Sifu saved my butt, because I was great at pushing forward,
Yes.
but I had no idea how to pull myself
I recognize my own.
back.
Mhm.
So he was able to help me learn how to pull back so I could actually train more.
Yeah.
Because when I washed up on his doorstep, my knees were shot, my hips were sore, like everything hurt because I was overtraining
I
myself.
forgot
so
about
much.
And how old are you?
I'm only 27.
Wow.
So I was like, I'm way too young for
That
this.
is
Like, this is a
wow.
problem.
But she's
Yeah.
been training in martial arts for 15 years.
Exactly, yeah.
And not just that, she was pushing herself probably more than Sensei Steve even told her to be honest with you,
Mhm.
because she does the same thing with me. She's sending me videos. Her first week, I taught her Shaolin turnovers, right? Where you basically do a push-up, you do a side plank, a back plank, and then a side plank, and then you do another push-up. And then she sends me a video the next week of her and her brother and sister doing it up the mountainside at their
Oh.
mountain. I'm like,
Mountain training.
that's brutal. If you had
Okay,
your little
yeah.
sister doing that. But that's and I love that she was pushing herself and that they were all doing that. That was wonderful. But at the same time, it's overtraining.
Right,
And you're going to hurt
exactly.
yourself. And she knows better anyway. She's a kinesiologist,
Mhm.
and that's her degree.
I
That's her-
did not know
Yeah.
that either.
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
learning all
and
kinds of
yeah.
cool
I knew
stuff
all
about
this
you.
stuff and yet still overtrained myself.
Didn't,
hard to
didn't
admit
follow your own
sometimes.
advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I ego trained.
So there's that
Yeah.
ego again.
I do it too. I do it too.
We all do it.
Yeah.
We all do it. We
Yeah.
all do it. So guys, listen, don't hurt yourselves.
No.
If you need to take a break, take a break. We're not telling you to take a break and stop. We're telling you to take a break. That means heal, come back, be ready to go. Sometimes we need that in our lives. There's a balance between, training hard, working hard, but then, sometimes I just need a vacation. Sometimes, hey, I just need a little break. I just need to reset myself. I just need to reorder my life. So, we want to just encourage you guys to keep training hard, but be smart about it. Don't hurt yourselves. You want a good mental health about yourself.
You only have one body.
That's right. You only got one mind. You only got, from what we know, you got one chance at this thing.
Mhm.
And we want to make sure that we make our revolutions around the earth count as much as we can. And if we're going to spend time training, we want to make sure we can train for as long as we can, be as healthy as we can, and ensure that we positively affect everybody around us. So, guys, do you have anything else that you'd like to say before we get out of here?
No, just
I don't
that
think
we had a
so.
great time
Yeah, thank you for having
No,
at
us.
the
thank
seminar.
you. Thank
It's
you.
wonderful.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. No,
You have some
Awesome.
very hardworking students. They picked up everything
Yeah, they're
very,
sharp.
very well. They did great. Even the kids in there were on
They
it.
were great.
Thank
They
you.
were keeping pace with the adults.
good, because I made sure that I threatened them to
The fear
ensure.
of God worked. They were
Yes,
very
yes.
good.
It was just like
Fear of seafood.
Yes.
Fear of seafood.
That's
fear
even
of
worse.
Uncle Seafood.
Yes.
Uncle Sifu's
That's
coming
right.
for you.
That's
coming.
right. 1, 2, Seafood's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock the
Yes.
door. I'm just
That
kidding.
wouldn't help. Can lock as many doors as you want.
Yes. Yes.
Sifu will find you.
Well, I always tell them Seafood's always watching.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I always tell them that. Seafood's
Yep.
always watching.
Mhm. That's it.
So, guys, thank you so much for being with us for this episode of Martial Mentality. And we are signing off. We'll see you next time. Peace.